The United Nations says 110 civilians have been killed in northeast Nigeria in an attack by suspected Islamist militants. Some of the victims, many of them farmers, are said to have been tied up before being knifed to death. Diego Maradona's doctor is being investigated for manslaughter following the death of the Argentine football legend earlier this week. Police in Buenos Aires searched Leopoldo Luque's house and private clinic for evidence of negligence. The French driver Romain Grosjean has survived a big crash on the opening lap of the Bahrain Grand Prix with minor burns. The car was sliced in two and burst into flames. Lewis Hamilton won the restarted race. And a volcano has erupted in eastern Indonesia, forcing almost 3,000 residents to flee their homes.
Minister Abiy Ahmed rejected direct talks with leaders of the Tigray area after ordering the army to launch a final offensive. A British-Australian man imprisoned in Iran on spying charges has been released, reportedly in exchange for 3 Iranians jailed in other countries. South Korea's intelligence agency says it has prevented North Korea from gaining coronavirus vaccine data from a South Korean drug maker. And in the United States, people are staying away from stores on Black Friday, the traditional start to the holiday buying season, because of COVID-19.
Sightseeing spots across Japan were bustling on Sunday despite the government declaring the next 3 weeks crucial to curbing the coronavirus pandemic. More than 2,000 new cases were reported around the country. The number of serious cases hit an all-time high of 462, including more than 60 in Tokyo. The popular Sky Tree in Tokyo was visited mainly by local residents who decided against traveling far afield. The tower is usually busy with visitors from around the country and abroad at this time of the year.
I often go traveling with my family, but I think it's good to stay close to home this time.
The Arashiyama tourist district in the ancient capital Kyoto attracted many people who wanted to see the fall colors. The shopping area was packed with visitors.
I realized there are more people than I would have thought.
I think we need to be careful as we enjoy ourselves.
Some shopkeepers were concerned by the crowds.
It seems many travelers switched their attention to Kyoto as neighboring Osaka was excluded from the discount program. I'm a bit worried that the bigger crowds will increase the infection risks.
Over 148,000 people have tested positive in Japan since the outbreak began. More than 2,000 have died. 2 major Japanese airlines will launch trials of a digital certificate for coronavirus test results. Some international airlines are also considering introducing it. The certificate system will help to reduce the complexity of immigration procedures for international air travelers. All Nippon Airways will start examining the usefulness of the smartphone app Common Pass on its flights between Tokyo's Haneda Airport and New York as early as December. Japan Airlines is also considering a similar program. The system displays PCR test results and the names of testing facilities. It also includes a traveler's passport number, current health status, itinerary, and other pertinent information. Users can quickly learn whether they meet entry requirements by holding their smartphones over data scanners. U.S. carrier United Airlines and Hong Kong-based Cathay Pacific Airways have already conducted such trials. Cooperation among international quarantine officials and other authorities to approve a standardized format is one of the challenges that must be overcome before the app can be accepted globally. The final cost of hosting next year's Olympic and Paralympic Games is becoming clearer. Sources close to the organizing committees say the extra costs accrued during the Games postponement are estimated to reach about 200 billion yen, or nearly $2 billion. The original cost estimate for the Games was about $13 billion, excluding a reserve fund. And the revised figure does not include costs for measures to combat the coronavirus. Additional funds will be needed to renew contracts for the venues. Then there are labor and other costs that need to be paid as the Games were postponed by 1 year because of the pandemic. The organizing committee and the Tokyo Metropolitan Government were to each shoulder more than $5.7 billion and the central government over $1.4 billion. The organizing committee had already cut the game's costs by about $290 million. It will discuss how the added burden will be shared by the committee, the central government, and the Tokyo metropolitan government. An announcement will be made by the end of the year. At the same time, a government-led panel is considering measures to keep the coronavirus in check, such as testing athletes during the games. Turning to the Middle East, where tensions are rising over the alleged assassination of a top Iranian scientist. Mohsen Fakhrizadeh is believed to have played a key role in the country's nuclear program. Iran claims he was assassinated by Israel in an attack on Friday. The country mourned his death on Saturday, with many people bearing his coffin. Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei condemned the attack on Twitter. He said one of the country's eminent scientists in the nuclear and defense fields was martyred by brutal mercenaries. Fakhrizadeh is said to have headed research and innovation at Iran's defense ministry. Tehran denies it is developing nuclear weapons, but the International Atomic Energy Agency suspects Fakhrizadeh led research in modifying civilian technology for military use. Israel has criticized Iran for supposedly developing nuclear weapons. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu singled out Fakhrizadeh in 2018 as a key figure in the nuclear weapons development.
Remember that name, Fakhrizadeh. Not coincidentally, many of Sapan's key personnel worked under Fakhrizadeh on Project Ahmad.
Israel has not had an official response to his death. One expert says Israel may be stepping up hostile actions while U.S. President Donald Trump is still in office.
It is possible that Israel is trying to block the Biden administration from resuming negotiations with Iran and returning to the nuclear deal. I think that Israel will continue what appear to be provocative actions in an effort to goad Iran into an excessive response.
Tanaka suggests Iran may hold back from major retaliation on the assumption U.S. policy will change under Joe Biden. In Ethiopia, the Prime Minister says government forces have retaken the capital of the northern Tigray region. Conflict in the area has continued for nearly a month. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed claims the regional party attacked the Ethiopian army base there on November 4th. Abiy released a statement on Twitter on Saturday saying government forces are now in full control of the city of Mekele. It says the main military operation is completed and the tasks ahead include rebuilding the city and bringing back residents who fled. Little is known about the current situation as communications are down. The Reuters news agency says it reached the leader of Tigray forces who said they are not giving up. More than 40,000 people have fled the region to neighboring Sudan. The United Nations has asked the Ethiopian government to give access to aid organizations. A powerful Japanese drumming performance was held to give encouragement to people affected by the pandemic. At a Buddhist temple in western Japan, over 300 spectators were inspired by the heavy beats of 6 drummers. The performance hall is an important cultural asset. Anti-infection measures were in place at the event.
I hope the drum beats are blowing the coronavirus away.
I cried because what came through was great.
One of the drummers said he is happy to be able to perform in public for the first time in a long while. He added that he hopes the event has lifted the spirits of people in the audience.